The Origins of Santa Claus. The original Nicholas was a 4th century Greek Christian bishop of Myra, now called Demre, in Lycia. Nicholas was very famous for his gifts to the poor. His generosity was legendary, and it led to the legend of Santa Claus. This was a character who was the Northern European version of Saint Nicholas, and he was attired with a red cloak and a bishop's mitre, and he rode a white horse. In Netherlands and Belgium, he was the character Santa Claus. Santa had to compete with that of Sinterklaas and Saint Nicholas. In Dutch, Santa Claus is known as de Kerstman, the Christmas man, and Père Noël, Father Christmas in French. Santa Claus in Leiden. Leiden is a city that originated on a hill at the confluence of the Old and New Rhine rivers. It is now in the Netherlands, but it is a town of ancient Germanic origins. The real Nicholas, or Santa Claus, lived in the outskirts of the town on a modest farm. He was a very curious figure and was interested in astronomy, metallurgy, and what we now call physics. He lived in the area about 1500, at the dawn of the Age of Discovery. His life in Leiden. Nicholas and his wife worked on their farm with the help of a small herd of reindeer that they imported from the north. Most of the farmers in the area would use donkeys or oxen if they could afford animals at all. Nicholas' reindeer adapted well to the farm, and they were treated like part of the family. And some people say that the reindeer slept inside the house with the people. The beginnings of the gift-giving tradition. Nicholas enjoyed Yule as many of his contemporaries did. In the best tradition of the Norse god Odin, he would hitch some reindeer onto a sleigh and ride to homes of poor families. He would then get down from the sleigh and walk into the house and deliver gifts of food, warm cloaks, and handmade toys for the children. Nicholas' strange disappearance and a very strange Yule. One day in the fall, a neighboring farmer went to visit Nicholas' farm. He found the house empty. All the fields had been harvested. His workshop was abandoned, and the reindeer herd was gone. They did find a sleigh in the barn, however. That Yule brought high winds and very cold temperatures. Many of the poor families were facing starvation. But then a strange thing happened. All around the village, poor families woke up on Christmas morning to find a cheery fire in the fireplace with a full kettle of mulled wine and an assortment of gifts under the Yule tree, including cloaks, blankets, and wooden toys for the children. Families that were too poor to decorate their Yule tree found it covered with little painted wooden ornaments. Whatever happened to Nicholas? The story goes that Yule gifts to the poor continued for many years afterward in Leiden, and then it started happening all over the Germanic countries. Well, now we get into a very strange story. It seems that 150 years or more before Isaac Newton's theories, Nicholas discovered quantum mechanics. By lots of experiments with light and prisms, then with small toys and then with reindeer, he managed to form multiple images of them. The first successful experiments with what is called superposition. Apparently, Nicholas had discovered the superposition principle. As it turns out, when particles interact in the quantum realm, they act as if they are waves. These waves can add up in a process called constructive interference to form peaks, or they can subtract and vanish in what is called destructive interference. These interference patterns can be very, very beautiful. This superposition principle is illustrated by the so-called two-slit interference experiment. In this experiment, a beam of particles, a wave, hits a barrier with two slits in it. It then will produce a series of bright images on the opposite side of the barrier, corresponding to the constructive interference maxima of the waves that pass through the slits. It would seem that Nicholas himself had progressed to the point in his experiments with superposition to go beyond light waves and beyond small toys and beyond reindeer to the point where he was able to produce a superposition of himself with his wife, his sleigh, and the reindeer in multiple locations simultaneously. His quantum projection device remains unknown, and no mention of it has ever been encountered anywhere. And yet, we see hints of it in our crude, so-called modern devices. Of space and time. With the introduction of special relativity by Albert Einstein in his famous paper of 1905, he was able to show that our universe is not three-dimensional with three spatial coordinates. It is, in fact, four-dimensional, three spatial coordinates and a time coordinate. All four coordinates define any object in space-time. One of the ideas that comes out of this is general relativity. And general relativity extends special relativity to gravity. And it defines the idea of a black hole. And through a black hole, it could even be possible for an object to travel anywhere at all in space-time. Forward and backward in space-time. As a further consequence of general relativity is that for any observer in the hypersurface of the present, there is no prohibition about traveling either forward or backward in space-time. For that matter, there's no reason why one cannot remain in the present for an indefinite period of time. The fact that time's arrow always sends us forward seems to be a consequence of the second law of thermodynamics, which says that all systems proceed irrevocably to a state of maximum entropy. Lots of unanswered questions remain about time reversal. Many research groups around the world are trying to answer the question, is time reversal possible? Lots of different approaches have been tried. In one such experiment, radium spins are used in a magnetic field and subjected to a very strange experiment in which it appears that you can make these atoms move backwards in times. So under some conditions, we can make the clock tick backwards. So whatever happened to Nicholas? From our most current understanding of physics that we have today, we can guess several things about Nicholas. First, that he mastered the superposition of macroscopic particles, including himself and his family. Second, he understood space-time and knows how to manipulate time's arrow. And third, he manipulates quantum coherence so that when his multiple superpositions are delivering their gifts, those actions are instantly perceived and acted upon by all of the other superpositions. This means that Santa, otherwise known as Nicholas, with his wife and herd are all ageless. He is no younger and he is no older than he was in 1500 when he started in his unique profession. He lives nowhere and everywhere, although when he decides to collapse his wave function into a place to rest and work, he finds a sheltered place on the ice sheet in the high Arctic where there is no one to observe him. And observation is everything. If someone inadvertently came across him in his original form, well, that would collapse his wave function, and he might never again be able to perform his quantum superposition experiments. So here is quantum physics in a nutshell. Any object's location is defined by the amplitude of a wave function, defined as the probability of some particle with a position in time is equal to the product of the real and the imaginary part of the wave function. And when I say imaginary part, that means a part that has an I in it. And those of you from math know that I is the square root of -1. Secondly, the sum of all the probabilities have to equal 1. In other words, 100%. The object can be anywhere where the probability function is greater than 0. That means anywhere on Earth, or anywhere in the universe for that matter. The object exists in all of the locations until the position of the object is actually measured. Think seen by someone. Santa knows how to freeze his probability function so that it can collapse into multiple locations simultaneously. Then, with 10 million identical Santas simultaneously delivering all over the globe, each Santa makes about 150 stops with 12 stops. That jolly old elf gets back home in time to enjoy a well-earned cup of hot cocoa with Mrs. Claus. And there is his cup of cocoa. And there are some of the drawings of wave functions purportedly given by Nicholas. And now, a little music for your enjoyment.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas. And when you walk down the street, say hello to friends you know and everyone you meet. Ho, ho, the mistletoe hung where you can see. Somebody waits for you. Kiss her once for me. Have a holly jolly Christmas. And in case you didn't hear, oh, by golly, have a holly jolly Christmas this year.